I have been doing an analysis of the grammar of great texts of the New Testament around the theme, the life of Christ. And I've been trying to look at the grammar analysis of each section that I'm covering, along with trying to maybe do a harmony of the Gospels if I'm able to do that, bringing all the gospels in view over time, and at least working on it. I'm now at the feeding of the 5,000 in John chapter 6 and following. It reads, Meta tauta apelthen ha Jesus, peren tes thalases tes Galileas tes Tiberiadas. That is, after these things, Jesus departed on the other side of the sea, or across the Sea of Galilee of Tiberias. Looking at this, the verb apelthen is from aperkamai. It is the aorist indicative active third person singular from aperkamai. So Jesus now, after the things that we have just seen in chapter 5, where he is given the witnesses to who he is, he then departs and goes to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. E kaluthe de auto aklas palus, hate etha orun ta semean ha epoie epiton astenunton. Now, and a great crowd was following him because they were beholding, or seeing the signs which he was doing upon the ones that were sick, or the ones that are sick. Notice akaluthe is from akalutheo, so there was following him. It is the imperfect indicative active third person singular from akalutheo. A great crowd, because they were beholding or seeing. Ethaorun is from theoreo, another imperfect indicative active third person plural from theoreo. They were seeing the signs which he was doing. Epoie is from poieo, imperfect indicative active third person singular from poieo, upon the ones who are sick. Austin noontone is the participle, the present active participle, genitive masculine plural from austeneo. They were the ones that were sick. So as they were seeing his miracles, a great crowd was following him. Anelthen de esta ora Jesus kaya ke ekatheta metaton matheton autu. And he departed unto a mountain. That is, Jesus departed unto a mountain. And there he was sitting with his disciples. Anelthen again is from anergamai. It is the aorist indicative active third person singular from anergamai. So they actually went up or Jesus went up, I should say, from anergamai unto the mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. From kathemai, it is the imperfect, he was sitting with his disciples, imperfect indicative passive third person singular from kathemai. So he was sitting with his disciples. And it was near the Passover, ein de ingusta pascha. Ein is your imperfect indicative active third person singular from emi. So it was near the Passover of the Jews. Aparas tus ophthalmus ha Jesus, kaitha asamanas hate palus aquas erkatai pras autan lege pras philippan pathen agarosomen artus hena phagosin um, hutoi. That is, when he lifted up his eyes, when Jesus lifted up his eyes and beheld that the great crowd was coming to him, he then says to Philip, "From where shall we buy bread in order that these might eat?" Notice epiros is from the epirod, or to lift up. Here we have the aorist active participle, nominative masculine singular. Therefore, when he lifted up his eyes, when Jesus, and beheld from the amai, another participle, the aorist middle participle, nominative masculine singular, from the amai, when he lifted up Jesus, then when he lifted up his eyes, or lifting up his eyes, and saw that a great crowd was coming, or is coming to him. Erkatai is your imperfect indicative middle third person singular from erkamai. He then says to Philip, and we're seeing this in a very picturesque way. He's saying to Philip, from where might we buy bread in order that these might eat? Notice agarasomen from agarazo. We have the aorist subjunctive first person plural from agarazo. From where might we buy bread in order that these might eat? This is from esteo, the aorist subjunctive active third person plural. So where can we buy bread? In the marketplace somewhere, that these might eat. And Jesus was doing this to test them, or to tempt them, the text says. Tauta de elegan peradzon autan, autas gar ede te emelin poen, for he already knew what he was going to do. Now this he was saying, tempting them, or testing them, for he had already known what he was about to do. Here we have elegan from lego, imperfect indicative active third person singular from lego. So he was saying this tempting from perazzo, your present participle, active participle, nominative masculine singular from perazzo, yes. So you think of luon, luontas, luonti, so it's that own ending, tempting him. And he had already known. Here we have the pluperfect indicative active third person singular from oida. It's perfect and pluperfect here. The perfect of oida has like an active meaning, or here it's pluperfect. So he already had known what he was about to do. From melo, imperfect indicative active third person singular. And poiein is your present infinitive, active infinitive from poieo. So Jesus already knew what he was about to do. Apeklithe auto ha Philippos, diakasion denarion artoi uk arkusin autois, hena hekastas brahuti labe. And Philip answered to him and said, 200 denarii is not sufficient for them in order that each might even receive a little bit. Philip is puzzled here as to how this is going to happen. Epikrithe is from apoklinomai, apoklino or apoklinomai, the aorist indicative passive third person singular. And so Philip said to him, 200 denarii of bread is not sufficient. A denarii would be about 18 cents. So you add that up, that's quite a bit, is what he's saying. 200 of that is not sufficient, would not be sufficient uh, for them in order that each might receive a little. Labe is from lambano, it's the aorist subjunctive third person singular from lambano. So 200 denarii of bread would not take care of so many people. Lege auto hes ek ton mate ton autu, Andreas ha eldelphas Simonas Petru. That is, one out of his disciples says to him, that is Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter. So he's going to tell him about the little boy and what he had. Notice here, lege is just your present indicative active third person singular from Lego. So one of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, says, Estin padarian hos eche pentap artus Crithenus kai duo apsaria ala tauta ti estin es tasutos. That is, there's a little boy, a little lad here, and he is having 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, probably cooked fish that had been pickled, apsaria. But what are these under such numbers understood here? So there was a little boy, Estin is from a me, present indicative active third person singular. There was a little boy here who is having another present indicative active third person singular from echo, who is having 5 loaves of barley and 2 small fish, probably cooked fish that had been pickled, some feel. But what are these under such numbers is the implication. And so Jesus then said to him, E pen ha Jesus, poiesatetus anthropus anapesein, ein de cortas palus in totapo, anepesan un hoi andres tan arithman hos penta kiskilioi. And Jesus said, make the men to recline. Now, there was a great crowd in that place. And so, there was much grass. There was much grass, cortas meaning grass. There was much grass in that place. And so the men reclined, the number about 5,000. So Jesus said, a pen is from Lego, aorist indicative active third person singular from Lego. Jesus said, poiesate. Here we have the aorist imperative second masculine plural from poieo. Make the men to recline. From anapipto, we have your aorist infinitive active from anapipto. So make the men to recline. And there was much grass in that place. Therefore, the men recline again from anepisan, from anapipto, aorist indicative active third person plural. So the men reclined, the number about 5,000. So the Lord's going to do an amazing miracle. Eleven un tus artus ha Jesus kai eucharistesas diodokin tois anakemenois chamoios kai ekton apsarion hasan athelon. So therefore he took the bread, that is, Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to the ones that were reclining, likewise also out of the two fish, as many, or out of the fish, I should say, as many as were willing. Elevin is your aorist indicative active second or third person singular from lambano. Therefore, he took the bread, that is Jesus, and when he had given thanks, eucharistes is the aorist participle, active participle from eucharisteo, nominative masculine singular. When he had given thanks, diodoken, he gave from diadidomi, aorist indicative active third person singular. He gave to those who were reclining. Anakemenois is your present participle middle, dative plural from anakemai. So the ones who were reclining, likewise, he gave to them, and likewise out of the fish, as many as were willing. Athelon is your imperfect indicative active third person plural from thelo. So notice he's multiplying the bread to feed 5,000 and also as many as would want the fish. Host de in a PlayStation lege tois mate taisal tu. Sunagagete ta perisiusanta klasmata kineme te apaletai. And as they were full, here we have in a PlayStation from impimplemi, to be full, the aorist indicative passive third person plural from impimplemi, and as they were filled or full. He then says to his disciples, Sunagagete, gather the fragments that are left over. Sunagagete is your aorist imperative second person plural from sunago. So gather the leftover fragments. Ta perisusanta is your aorist participle. I'm sorry, yeah, your from your present participle, perisu, aorist, aorist participle, accusative neuter plural from perisuo. So gather the fragments, plasmata, that are left over in order that there might not, in order that nothing or not anything might be destroyed, from apalumi, aorist middle subjunctive third person singular from apalumi. And so we're told that they gathered sunegagan un kai egemisan dodeka kafinus klas mata ekton penta arton ton grithinon cha eperisusan tois bebroskasin. So they gathered, therefore, and they filled 12 baskets of the fragments out of the 5 loaves of barley, which was left over, which were left over by those by that which had been eaten. Notice here Sunegagon, and therefore they gathered from sunago, your aorist indicative active third person plural from sunago, they gathered, and they agimisan dodecan, they filled um, 12 baskets of the leftover fragments. Agimison is from gamidzo, aorist indicative active third person plural. 12 baskets of the fragments out of the 5 loaves, which bibrosko is the root here, uh, which had been which had been left over by the ones who had eaten. Notice here the 5 barley loaves which had remained from perisuo, aorist indicative active third person plural, by those who had eaten from bibrosko, the perfect participle uh, dative plural from bibrosko, of those who had eaten. And so there's this leftover of what the Lord had created. We see the Lord here as the creator, making all of this possible. So in verse 14, hoi un anthropoi idantes ha epoiesin semean elegan ha te hutas estin aletos ha prophetes ha erkamenas estan kasman. And the men, when they saw the sign which he did, that sign which he did, were saying that this is truly the prophet who is to come into the world. Notice here, idantes is from charao. It's the aorist participle nominative masculine plural from charao. So when the men saw that which he did, poiesin from poieo, the aorist indicative active third person singular, when they saw that sign which he did, they were saying that elegon is from lego, imperfect indicative active third person plural. They were saying that this is truly the prophet who is coming into the world. Going back to Deuteronomy chapter 18, the prophet that was to come. Erkamenos is your perfect, the one coming, the perfect middle participle nominative masculine singular from erkamai. And so they're thinking this has got to be that prophet. Jesus un gnus hate melusin erkastai kai harpatsen autan hena poiesosin basileia anekoresin panen esta oras autas manas. Therefore, Jesus, when he knew that they were about to come and to seize him in order that they might make him a king, departed again into the mountain by himself alone. So Jesus did not want them to seize him and to make him a king. He has to go to the cross first, I think, is the whole thought all the way through the Gospels. And so Jesus avoids being made a king before the cross. Notice, therefore, Jesus, when he knew, genus is your aorist participle nominative masculine singular from genosko. When he knew that they were about to come, melusin is a present indicative active third person plural from melo. They were about to come. Erkastai is your present middle infinitive from erkamai. And to seize. Arpatsein is from arpadzo, to seize. It's your present active infinitive from Arpadzo. They were about to seize him in order that they might um, make him a king. Poieso seen is from poieo, the aorist subjunctive third person plural from poieo. Notice the henna introduces the subjunctive here, that they were about to make him a king. So he departed again. Anakoresin from anakoreo, aorist indicative active third person singular from anakoreo. He departed again into the mountain by himself alone. So what we learn from this great text is that Jesus is the great creator, that he can multiply bread and multiply the two fish. And this is going to later then lead to the truth that he is the final manna come down from heaven. The rabbis said when Messiah would come, the manna would be brought back. And so as we move on into chapter 6, Jesus is the bread of life. And so not only does he do the physical miracle, but he is the one who brings eternal bread, eternal food for all who put their faith in him as Lord and Savior. And that is what Matthew or what John will go on to drive home as we come to the chapter 6 and more, the rest of chapter 6, or after this text and the next miracle, then we'll come to the discourse on the bread of life.